we've been discussing Mishtat v'mavo. Yeah, you Mishtat v'mavo. We make a sheet of a voice. Well, what you're doing is you're including everyone in it. So instead of collecting, you wanted to be a good Samaritan. You went ahead, you took your some food, wine, bread, whatever, and you're using it for sheet of a voice. Now, each one of us on the screen has to be mishatif in the mavoi. Each one of us has to be mishatif in the mavoi. Okay. Each one of us wants to be mishatif in the mavoi, but it's got to be your food. So if I take my food, I can't go ahead and use it for you unless I give it to you. So that was the Mishnah we discussed yesterday, where you could be mizaka. In other words, that's mizaka. I'm making you a shliach to go ahead and give for that individual. And there be zachalav mishlei b'fanav. We all assume that you want to be mishtatif in this mavoi. And the Mishnah discussed it has to be somebody who has their own yad that's leaving. If it's an eved kanani or a cotton, that's your yad. So in fact, it's still in your rishus. So they're not mishtatif because it's not theirs. So that's the idea of being mizaka ayidei acherim. You're giving it to other people. That people is your shliach to go ahead now, take what's yours and go ahead and be mishtatif in the mavoi. And that's what we discussed yesterday. We said that we concluded that you have to pick the food up at tefach. We said, however, that's not linyan hagbah, it's just a tefach. And we're up to Pei Amid Aleph. Pei Amid Aleph, we're up to Meisivei, about how many lines down? About 4 lines down at the end of the line. Meisivei. Ketzad mishtatim mavoi. How are you mishtatim mavoi? You had to make a sheet of a voice. Evin chavir shel yayin, v'shel shemen or shel shemen, v'shel tamarim or dates, v'shel groigros or dried figs, v'shel shalminei previs, or any one of these things would suffice. Im mishaloi, if it all belongs to him, sarach lizakos, he has to go ahead and be mizaka them, right? He's, again, as I just spoke out, he's mizaka them, and therefore now it's theirs, and he's going ahead and making it for them. Yes, Chaim.
Is this every time it says chavis? Your mom is bringing a chavis, or it's talking about a container or a shear, a quantity?
Yeah.
It's not like bringing a barrel of wine.
Two sudas, baby. 2 sudas.
That's it.
2 sudas. Mazan, we're going to see the next Mishnah. Mazan shtei sudas suffices for many, many people. Okay, you good? Now, the image ahead.
He has to mention each person by name. What he said.
Again, you're mizaka for the people, the members of the Mavi. I don't know the exact lashon. You're mizaka for. You're making this person a shliach to go ahead, and so you mention the people by names. Again, I don't know exactly the mechanics. Mechanics I do know. The lashon I don't know. Mizaka means I'm mizaka. If you say this should be a sheet of my voice, this you should go ahead and accept it for every single member of the chutzner. So what's wrong with that?
No, so every person knows that he's part of that beforehand.
Why do people have to know anything? Why did you hear that? Who said they have to know?
Because let's say a guy doesn't want to be part of it.
Why would a person not want to be carrying a mavoi?
I don't know. Let's say he's another mavoi. He's part of a different.
Okay,
one.
We'll see a shayla. But stamazay one mavoi. There's no person who would not want to carry in Shabbos. Adarabba. This is din of zachem lad mishlei b'fanav. You're being mizaka a person not in front of him. It's a schia heshi. Why would it? In other words, there's no downside over here. As we're going to see, fellas, by Erev Techumim, there's a downside. If I go ahead, it's not maybe you want to go in the other direction.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It's two directions.
Other direction. So over there, it's not clear as a schus. But here by Mavoi, it seems to be clear.
All right.
I mean, I think so, right? I mean, I have to know, so I'm just playing nice to you, Okay, so now, if he's using his own, so again, I have to give it to you. So the zakos, the imishal ahead, let's say he take from them. Now it's their stuff. Then if he uses their stuff, Heshi, sarach lo'idiyah, he has to inform them of what he's doing. Because again, he's using their stuff. Umagbiyah min hakarka mashahu. And you lift it up from the ground, a mashahu. So all of this was one question. Yesterday we said a tefach. Here it's mashma. To me, mizaka, you don't even need a tefach. A mashu who will do it, right? Nothing with nothing. And for the going mashu nami to come a tefach. When it said mashu, it meant a tefach. Itmar, shitufe muvois. Now, in our Mishnah, we said shita muvois, you can go be mizaka for other people. Says Rav, Itma Shita Mevois Rav Oma Ein Tzarech L'Zakos. He argues on the Mishnah. You can do it even without being Mizakeh. You can do it even without giving it. In other words, the reason why you have to be Mizakeh, guys, listen to this. It's very fascinating. Human nature is, how do you know when a person uses something for another person that he's really giving it to them? It's mine, right? Ostensibly, I'm doing it for you. But how do I know I'm giving it to you? So what do we say? I'll tell you what. We have a means, the mechanics of accomplishing this by being mizakeh. I go ahead, I give it to my older child and say, listen, you be mizakeh for A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Therefore, I know without a shadow of a doubt, I gave it away. Good? Good? Says Rav, you don't even have to do that. Says Rav, you don't even have to do that. Why? Because Shita Mavois, you know for sure I'm going to give it away. Even without, why am I going to give it away? Because if I don't, I won't be able to carry in the Mavoy. You're asking upon me. Look at Rashi. Tosfos brings it and Rashi does. Guys, the Rashi is a little bit down. It's Reb Chia Koi. It's like 2 lines down from where we are. Reb Chia Koi kirav bitchumim. The Gabi Chatzeros time of the Rav. This is what we need. Why by Erev Chatzeros, meaning over Shitim of voice, why does Rav hold you don't have to be mizakeh? Mishum the kivin the ka'asa aleya, since they ask on him, gomeru makna. He goes ahead and says, you know what? I'm going to give it to them. Vein tzarech sechia, and therefore you don't need sechia for them to get it. V'yafagav the mastisam poligo the Rav, even though our Mishnah says you have to be mizakeh. Rav Tanu Palik. Rav is a Tana and can argue. So it's very, I'm giving you the lumdis behind the words. Guys, I almost said it. So now, the reason why you would say you have to be mizakeh is simply because how do you know you're giving it to the guy? So by being mizakeh, you're assuring that. That's our Mishnah. Says Rav, you don't even have to be mizakeh. It's to my advantage to give it to you. Because if I don't, then what? I won't be able to carry in the mavoi. So therefore, if I use my stuff, I don't even have to mizakeh. Just go ahead and say, this is for them without a kinyan. And we know unequivocally for sure he's doing it because he doesn't want asa, he wants to be able to carry in the mavoi. That's Rav. Our Mishnah doesn't say it. Rav Kanalu Polik. Rav Zatanan argues. We're good?
You only need a kinyan when it's not Zachar Adam Shalom Lefanov. Zachar Adam Shalom Lefanov, you never need a kinyan.
Of course you do.
No, because it's whether it's a child.
Why does Sechia, Yankel?
I'm saying
I'm being Zeicha for you. Of course you need a kinyan.
No, but I'm saying by me saying it should be enough.
Saying doesn't mean anything. You have to make a kinyan. Sechia makes a kinyan.
I thought only if it's a child, whether he wants it or not, then you have to make a kinyan. That's what I thought.
No.
Am I wrong? Okay.
Again, the shaila is whether he's giving it away or not. That's the whole reason for the kinyan. If I can give you a matana, right? If I'm doing you a favor and schia and everything, right? Zaklan shleba fanov. So therefore, the reason you need a kinyan is because you're not sure the guy's really giving it away. But if you knew for sure, you won. So I guess if the reason if it's schia and you know for sure the guy is giving it, it would work like you say. It would work like you say. You're not wrong. However, it's not a steer to what you're saying. Rab says, you don't have to be mizakeh the guy. The schia over here is being mizakeh, that it goes through a shliach. You can give it directly for the guy. You can give it directly. Why? Because you know for sure the guy's doing it. That's Rav. Back in the Gemara. So Rav argues on a Mishma. Itmar, Shitu Muvois, which is also the same word as Erev Chatzeros. Rav Ama ain't tzarech l'zakos. U'shmuel Ama tzarech l'zakos. Like a Mishnah. Erev Tchumim, Rav Ama tzarech l'zakos. You have to. U'shmuel Ama ain't tzarech l'zakos. You don't have to. Now Bishleim is Shmuel hachatnan v'hachaleitanan. A Mishnah over here, which is speaking about Erev Chatzeros, meaning Shitu Muvois. It says you have to be mizakeh. the next Mishnah that's going to speak about Erev Tchumim does not mention Zechia. So Shmuel is just going to the letter of the law. He's following the Mishnayos. El Rav, my timer. Now, Rav, guys, we're saying my timer now is two dinim. He said Erev Chatzeros and he said Erev Tchumim. The whole Gemara now is on Erev Tchumim. The whole Gemara now is on Erev Tchumim. We explained the reason why Erev Chatzeros you don't need Sfiyah, because you know for sure he's going to give it away. You should know for sure he's going to be a Makna. Good? Now the Gemara is going to say, when Rav said you do not need a Schia by Erev Tchumim, it's Machlokes Tanoim, and Rav holds like the opinion that you don't need a Mizaka. That's it. That you do. Says the Gemara. So Rav says you have to Mizaka, right? Now, a long-winded brisa. It's my timer, Rav, my timer. Rav, what's the reason Erev Tchumim you have to be Mizaka? Says the Gemara, Tanoihi. It's a machlokes Tanoim. The Amrav Yehuda Amarav, Maisa b'kalasa sherev Oishia, sheholchel lebeis hamerchatz. She went to a beis hamerchatz. V'choshkol, and she was outside the Tchum. V'choshkol, and now she couldn't get back. How unless she made Erev Tchumim. The Irvela Chamaisa, she had a good mother-in-law. If the mother-in-law didn't want her back, she would let her stay there, right? Went to make the Erev Tchumim. Mother-in-law made the Erev Tchumim, right? Uba Maisa Fnei Rabbi Chia, V'asa. In other words, the mother-in-law's Erev Tchumim did not help for the daughter-in-law. Amal Rabbi Yishmael, Rabbi Yossi, Bavloi, Rabbi Yossi, you Babylonian. He came from Bavel. You saw Machmer Eruvin? Kachama Abba. So Rab says, Kol sheyesh l'chol lahakol be'eruvin hakol. My father, Rabbi Yossi, Unamiko Imo, Rabbi Yossi, who we always follow, he says any kul you can make by Eruvin you should be makel, and therefore the mother-in-law's Erev Tchumim should help for the daughter-in-law. Now, the boilahu, Mishal Chamaisa Irvala, did the Chamaisa use her own food? Umishim loy zichsala, and the reason why it doesn't work is she wasn't Mizakaha. Aydilma Mishala Irvala, she used the daughter-in-law's food, Umishim del Shalem Midaita, and because it was without, in other words, it was without her das. So there's two reasons. If it's the mother-in-law's, you can't be Mizaka. If it's the daughter-in-law's, then what? If Shalem Midaita. Amal hen, Hahumer Rabbanon, Rav Yaakov Shmei, L'dim Farsh L'minei Rav Yochanan, Mishal Chamoisa Irvu, it was the mother-in-law's food, Umishim Loi Zichsala, and because he was not Mizaka, you can't be Mizaka for her. So that's L'chaira. And Rav Chia said it's Asa. So what do you see? That you need Zechia, and she wasn't. So this is Rav Shita. By Rav Tchumim, he holds the Rav Chia that you have to be Mizaka. He holds by Tchumim you have to be Mizaka. Rav Chia said Asa because she was not Mizaka. So this is Rav Shita. It's a machlokes Tanoim between Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi, and Rav Chia. Rav Chia held that what you have to be Mizaka. Since the mother-in-law was not, she's stuck in the B'yaf house. Rav, who said the words by Erev Tchumim, you have to be Mizaka, holds like Rav Chia. And the Brisa continues. When you get over there, go by the rock of Tzur, and go ask him the Shaila whether you have to be Mizaka by Erev Tchumim or not. So Yaakov Baridi told him, so therefore, Rav held like Rav Chia, and not like Rabbi Yossi. So that's it. Guys, you got it? Let me say that again one more time. Our Mishnah says the following. Our Mishnah is discussing the Erev Chatzeres. Good? Our Mishnah says you have to be Mizakeh. On that, Rav argued, and Shmuel agreed with the Mishnah. Rav argued because he said, by Erev Chatzeres Zicha, the guy is going to be Machna. You don't have to have Schia to ensure that what it's coming from the other people. He himself is going to do it. By Erev Tchumim, however, you have to be Mizakeh. If you're going to go ahead and collect an Erev Tchumim for an individual, you have to be Mizakeh and say, I'm going ahead hereby and putting this Erev Tchumim down for this person, right? The Mishnah didn't say that. Shmuel agreed with the Mishnah. Rav said, I disagree. Rav found a Tana that it goes according to Machlokes Reb Chia and Reb Shmuel Reb Yossi. He held like Reb Chia, and that's where we're holding. He has a Tana who holds, you have to be Mizakeh by Erev Tchumim. Continues the Gemara. Amar Rav Nachman, Naktina, take the following Masorah with you. Naktina, take the following Masorah with you. What's the Masorah? Echad Eruvin Tchumim, ve'echad Eruvin Chetzeros. Whether it's Eruvin Tchumim or Eruvin Chetzeros, an Echad Shitufim Mevois. Eruvin Chetzeros Shitufim Mevois are the same thing. Sarach L'Zakos. You have to be Mezaka. So that's like Rav by Erev Tchumim, but not like Rav by Erev Chetzeros. Boy, Rav Nachman. So that's Rav Nachman's Masorah. So Rav Nachman, guys, was machmir both ends, right? Guys, Rav Nachman was machmir to require not only by Erev Tchumim, but even by Erev Chetzeros, or Shituf Mevois. You have a machlokes of Nachman, Rav, and Shmuel. According to Shmuel, Tchumim, no. Chetzeros, yes. According to Rav, the opposite. Tchumim, yes. Chetzeros, no. According to Rav Nachman, both. He was machmir both ends. Good. Rav Nachman, he just said both. Guys, Naktina, take the following Masorah with you. Listen to the words. Echad Eruv Tchumim. V'echad Erev Chetzeros v'echad Shituf Mevois. Sarach L'Zakos. You need both. 3 shitas. Boy, Rav Nachman, what about Erev Tavshilin? Right? Heshi, what about Erev Tavshilin? Sarach L'Zakos? I ain't Sarach L'Zakos. Do you have to be Mizaka or not? In other words, I'm going to go ahead. Do I have to Mizaka you with say I'm putting this bread away for this person Erev Tavshilin, or the matzah, the hard boiled egg? I'm not going to mighty boy like Shmilei Hodam Rav Nachman Baravada Amar Shmuel. Did you not hear what he said? That what? Erev Tavshilin, Sarach L'Zakos, you have to be Mizaka the person for the other person. Amalei Abai Pshita Shmilei. It's pashut that he didn't hear. The Shmilei, because if he did hear, mighty boily. What's your shaila? Amalei Atu Eruv Tchumim Milei Amar Shmuel ain't Sarach L'Zakos. Did Shmuel not say by Erev Tchumim you don't have to? For Amar Iu Sarach L'Zakos, and Nachman disagreed. So you see that what? He heard something and he disagreed. So maybe also over here he heard something and he disagreed. In other words, he heard, so he said, what's the din? He said you have to be mizaka. Now hachi ashna. Hishlei mahasam by Erev Tchumim pligi Rav Shmuel. Rav says you have to, and Shmuel says you don't. The kamash malay kichumri demar kichumri demar. And Rav Nachman said you need both chumis. Site chumim and site katzeros. You have to be mizaka. As I pointed out to you, a third cheetah that you need both. Aval hacha, however, by Erev Tavshilin, isya the shmilei. If you would have heard that there's a machlekes in the matter, mi ikad demand the polig. Is there anyone that argues? So obviously there's no one who argues, and therefore he has to shaila. Must be he never heard anything about it. By Shmuel and Rav with his machlekes, clearly he heard, and he said like both. Over here, when he has to shaila, clearly no one said anything. So therefore, it's Kenzai didn't hear. Ahu Terzina, there was a guy who was head of the armory. He was watching the ammunition. The Havi, obviously a guy. The Havi B'Shuvavisa Rav Zera. He was in the neighborhood of Zera, and they wanted to make a sheet of voice. Now, what we know by now, a guy, what do you have to do? You have to rent, right? We remember Zera Hadar. We don't want to live with the goyim. We made it difficult. No schia, no erev, no nothing. You have to rent, and he won't want to rent to you. He's worried about shafim. Okay, anyway, this guy didn't want to rent. Amalei Agalach V'Shuscha Lo Yaga. Asla came to Zera. They came. They wanted a loophole. Amalei Mahul Lemigma Midvisaya. What? Can we go ahead and rent from his wife? How about that? No, it's from his wife. So Amalahu said, Rabbi Zera, Hachiyam Reish Lakish made the Gavra Rabba. Reish Lakish said in the name of a Gavra Rabba. Umano, who's this Gavra Rabba? It's Reb Chanina. It's the Tana Reb Chanina. Ishtay Shel Adam, the wife of an Adam, Ma'arev Shalemi Daitoi. The wife of an Adam can be Ma'arev Shalemi Daitoi. So you have a loophole by a guy. Let the guy can rent also as well. Okay, this din of a woman renting it says Shalemi Daitoi means that she can give the bread Shalemi Daitoi. She doesn't have to ask her husband, she can give it. If the husband, this is Jewish law, if the husband's in action, guys, and he doesn't want to make, he's angry, let's say, he doesn't want to make an Erev Chatzeros or a Sheet of Mevois, she can even give it Bal Karchai. As I state in Halacha, in Shulchan Aruch, in Shin Samet Zayin. Again, there's two halachas over here. Giving Shalom Midaitoi, and a second, even more severe, is giving against his will. If this guy is such a not nice person that he dafka doesn't want him mishtatif in the chotzer or the mavoi to bestly mess up the other guys, you can go to his wife, and his wife could give against his will. Ad kedei kach. Here is speaking where it wouldn't aser, and over here, therefore, when aser, you can give shlemi daita. Next case, similar case. Hu Tunisa, there was again this same armor guy, but however, the Abi B'Shavisa, the Yehuda bar Oshaya. Amrulei Oigelach B'Shuska Layagal. He didn't want to go ahead and give it. Asla Kamed Rav Yehuda, that came in front of Rav Yehuda bar Oshia, and Amrulei Mahu Megmer B'Sayo. Can we go ahead and rent from his wife? Like have a biyah, they didn't know. Rav Yehuda bar Oshia didn't know. Asla Kamed Rav Masna, like have a biyah, Rav Masna didn't know either. Asla Kamed Rav Yehuda Amalahu Hachi Am Shmuel Ishta Shel Adam Arev Shlemi Daitoi. Okay, so we see a woman can do it. Mesivei, guys, you so far good?
And can the guy be mavatal what she did?
What do you mean?
She
goes down into the chutzah. Yeah, that's what he said. He goes down into the chutzah. Sure, he could.
So he could still mess it up for everybody.
We had a Gemara. He takes the stuff and goes down in the chutzah, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now Mesivei, Nashim she'irvu v'nishtatfu shloimi das baleihem. If women go ahead and make an eruv or a shitum voice without the das of the husband, ein eruv ve'eruv ein shituf shituf. Kasha and Shmuel, you just told me you could, right? You just told me you could, and now you're telling me you can't. Says Malay Kasha, it's not a problem. Had the aser, had loy aser. One is speaking in a case where he would aser, as I just said. Then you can go ahead and do midai. However, where it doesn't aser, then you need midaitai. Where it doesn't aser, Rashi brings the hechetimtza where you wouldn't aser. Rashi says, had the aser. Al b'nei mavoi loy bein in daite, where he would aser on b'nei mavoi. You don't need his das. I said, and I told you that Allah is even a bigger chiddush. Not only do you need his das, even if he doesn't want to, you can do it. Right? And this Bryce mitzvah that we just mentioned is speaking where he would not aser. Kigon chotzev sheben shnei muvois v'regilim zev leim zeh. We had a case, guys. You had a chotzer between two mavois, and you had chatzerim, and he custom goes at one of them. So since he custom goes at one of them, with the other one it wouldn't aser. So therefore, since he usually doesn't go out to the left, it wouldn't aser. In that case, what you can't go ahead and take against their will. Hachanami Mistaber to say that I'm speaking that's speaking where you're used to going, where us or not, right? Or else them kain kasher shmuel l'shmuel dama shmuel echa b'nei mavoi sherogol l'ishtatif. Guys, focus on the word sherogol. Echa b'nei mavoi sherogol l'ishtatif. You're accustomed to making a shituf in b'nei mavoi v'loy l'ishtatif b'nei mavoi b'nei mishtatif kama b'nei mavoi nichnas l'tech beisoi b'noylin shitufim imenu bal karchai. They can go in and take against his will. Rogol in because they're accustomed to be, meaning he would aser shein rogoloi. So shmami no, you have a good raya that the one that said that you can't take from the woman is speaking where the person's presence would not aser. And when did Shmuel say that you can take midaitoi? That's speaking where if you won't be mishtatet, it would aser on the other people of the mother. Let me bring you a proof. If a person is part of the mavui and he doesn't want to be mitzaref in the lechi v'koira, you can go ahead and force him, right? So too over here, if a person doesn't want to be mishtatif in the shitum voice, you could force him. It says where you have no raya from mavui to what to shitum voice. Shani hasam the leka mechitzos. Over there's no mechitza, so you can force the guy to put a fourth wall up. Rashi says, "Shani hasam leka mechitzos." Umavi megulahu. The mavi is open on that side. And it's not easy to watch. Hilkach koifnei soy, we force him. The question is, what kind of shmira is a koira or a lechi, guys? The third wall is open, right? You're putting a lechi or a koira. What kind of shmira is that? So that's what Tosfos has a problem with that. So therefore, Tosfos says another pshat. Let's see Tosfos pshat again. What's the kasha? It's not a kasha. You want to bring a raya that you can force the guy to give for the mavoi. So just like you can force for the mavoi, you can force for the chatzar. Maybe there's a difference between mavoi and chatzar because the mavoi is open. Rashi says al shmiro, we can force him. Tosfos has a problem with that. Says Tosfos, shani hasan dika mechitza. Says Tosfos, Pirsha ben Atan, dinhu The koifnei soy lasos lechi b'koira. The mahani mechitzos lahatil letalta b'soichai. Because to go, it helps when you go ahead and put a lechi up to carry inside of it. Afa b'shinasu bal korchis shaladam, even if it's against a person's will. Like dami le'eriv, the bein have a mishum dira, ubein mishum kinyan, ein lo lahoyel bal korchis shaladam. In other words, over by Erev, by Erev, you need the person's das. It doesn't help out korchoy. Masha'in came by mechitza, just to carry, you don't need the person's das. So it's different over there by lechi. Shiny hasam the ikar mechitza, meaning it's a mechitza, and the mechitza does not need das. Masha'in came by chetza, you need das, so maybe you can't take. Als mechitza, I can take it bal korchoy. Guys, if I take a mechitza bal korchoy, correct? So who cares? It's a mechitza. Masha'en came where you need the person to give his food to be mishtativ in the mavui. There it wouldn't help. Well, the kuntrus like pirish came, and kuntrus doesn't explain that way, and we don't understand Rashi that well because it's not a shmir. Okay, so far, so that's one teretz. Again, one teretz to the attempted raya, stelling mechitzas mavui to Erev, just like mavui you can force, so to mechitza. Erev you can force. And now the answer is like lishnachrina mitzad. Now, guys, this makes no sense whatsoever. This is fascinating. This makes no sense. Rashi doesn't say it. Taisus doesn't say it. There's no teretz that makes any sense over here whatsoever. So if you look at the gra, the aleph, that's the Vilna Gaon. Gemara lishnachrina mitzad shiny near beinai bezdin shiny. No, it's Taisus. The gra just changes the gersa from mitzad, it says it's the bezdin. Whether you could take the money out of bezdin is a difference. So that's the difference between the two. Over here, I guess by Mobi, you could take the money out of bezdin, or vice versa. I'm not sure. Itma, Rav Chia Barashi Amar, Oisin Lechi Ashera, Rav Shimon ben Lakish Amar Oisin Koira Ashera. An Ashera tree is Asa Bahana. Says Rav Chia Barashi, I can make a Lechi using an Ashera. Shmuel says you can even make a Koira using an Ashera. Mandiyama Koira. Mandiyama says Koira, which needs Koira needs a shear. We had earlier in the Masechta, a Koira has to be a tefach wide to makabel a brick. That's a half a brick, which is 1.5. You might remember it's quarter on both sides, right? And it's the middle, right? So there's a shear. So a shear is as far to say there's no shear because it's going to be burnt. So if you're going to tell me that a Koira which needs a shear, it would help. Certainly would help for a lechi. Kol shkein lechi. Umandiyam a lechi by lechi aval koira loy. Why? Because ketuti michta shiureha. Because we'll view it as not being there, and therefore what? You don't have by koira. You need it by lechi. It's mashma. You don't have a shear. Mashenke koira you do have a shear. Now the problem is by lechi we know you do have a shear. We had a machlokes. Rabbi Yossi said 3, and we said mashahu. He said, "Poik chazi labroy." Go see what's going on. He said, "Everyone uses a mashahu, so a mashahu is also a share." So look at the second place. This al v'koyre ketute michta shiureha afagav the lechi nami b'mei the boy share. Even though lechi needs a share, frek is a kasha. How could you tell me? The mandama says that it's good for lechi. It won't be good for koyra. Why? Because koyra needs a share, and therefore you don't have it because it's considered burnt. If that's the case, lechi also shouldn't work because lechi also needs a shear. That's Taisus kasha. Nonetheless, afagav the lechi nami boy shear goiva it needs a shear of height, which is 10 tefachim. The gam roichiv mashahu, and it needs a width of a mashahu. Mia boy mikol mokain kimin le boy el shear zuta leichmiru boy. Since it needs a small shear, we're not machmir. It's a little shearlich, right? If you view it as not being there, it's not there. Ketutech michta shiura. So you have to say, ketutech michta shiura doesn't mean it's not there. It means the shear is diminished. You don't have the full shear. For example, you know this ketutech michta shiura from the third parak in Sukkah. Lulav agazal yoish puzzle shel ashera v'shel nidachas puzzle. So what's the psul of shel ashera v'shel nidachas? Is since you're going to burn them, ketutech michta shiura. What's pshat? We know a lulav, fellas, has to have a certain length that you can have a tefach over here and a tefach over there. Once you give a genoi share, once you give an amount, then we say ketute michta shiura. But if you don't give a genoi share, if you just say mashahu, so ketute michtach doesn't mean it's not there at all. Ketute michtach means from the share that you need, it's not there. But by mashahu, since it's such a kleinadika thing, the svara would be that it would work. That's the way I understand Tosfos. Did that make any sense? Yes, Avram.
That does make sense, but I when we were learning, it was either last night, I'm sorry, I forget, or the night before, we also spoke about Nashera, and we had a little bit of difficulty understanding it. This svara might help us because in that case, you might not have been able to use the Ashera because it didn't exist.
No, that wasn't the svara. Asherah was over there. We needed to create a Pesach, right?
Right.
You physically had a Pesach. Virtually you didn't, but you physically did, and it's the Torah through an Ari on top of it. So it's the Ari of Ketute Michta Shiura. You don't by a Pesach. I need a Pesach. I have a Pesach.
But it's not a Pesach if it's not there. If it's burnt, if it's ashes, it's not a Pesach.
Again, but that's only if you need to share like a tefach or something. You know, a good idea to share by a Pesach. You want to save it for over there. I hear what you're saying. I think it could be. That's not Pshat Pesach. It's an opening. Let me ask you a question. Let's say you have an opening, and the opening's asa b'hana to go through. I don't know why. I'm making it up. But physically, you see a hole. So the halacha can't take away that hole. So now by the log, we put a log. It was a log of an ashera. If that's the hole, you can't take it away. On the other hand, to create a halacha, for example, over here, to create a kaira, that I can't do. Now, what about a lechi mashahu? Again, I'm not sure. I'm telling you my svara. I'm telling you that ketute michta shur means it diminishes the share, but if you don't, the share is a mashahu. Tosfos used the lashon kol kach, we're not machmir. Okay, again, this is I don't know, beyond the scope of the share, but it's a nice lump. It's not something. It's something nice to get into, you know. But since it's Daf Yomi, and the clock is ticking, and people are falling out, we're gonna go on. Says the Heilige Mishnah. Nismayir ha'oichel moisef. Now you made a sheet of mavois. We're gonna see. You need mazon shtei sudos for at least 18 people. And it became smaller. So what do? You add. Umizake. And if you're using your own stuff, you mizaka. You don't even have to tell them. So let's say we're going to see, guys. It means the thing is gone. It's gone. So what do? You redo it. It's your own stuff. You make a zaka. These guys, you don't have to tell them why. They made it in the first place, so obviously they were happy with it. Again, you ran out, but it was there because they wanted it to be there. Let's say more people join, and they weren't mishtatif in the shituf. Moisef mizakeh b'tzarich l'idea. Since they weren't the first time around, you have to be idea them. Says Rashi, b'tzarich l'idea l'diyuroin sheni toisvay im daitem be'erev if they're happy with the erev. Ukigoyin shema arev mishalahem. This is very important. You use their stuff. That's why you have to tell them. The time of precious lael. V'tarti katani. Moisef umizakeh imishaloi ma'arev. If he's moisef umizakeh, if it's his, make the erev. V'tzaref le'diyah imishalohen ma'arev. And if you use them, you have to go ahead and tell them. So when don't you have to tell them? That's when it's yours. When you do have to tell them, when it's from theirs. That's Rashi's learning pshat in the Mishnah. So the first case in the Mishnah is after all, it's if you're going to use your stuff. Right? Because what? Using their stuff. No matter how many they are, mazon shtei sudas is going to do the job. When they're less than that, and we'll see a number soon, the share of Haitzah of Shabbos, The share of any food, so Shabbos, guys, is a greigris. Remember, we had earlier on in the Sefta, Chita, Sa'ira, Teina. We said Teina was the share of greigris, right? Says Rabbi Yossi, b'medamar mamurim. When do we say this? It's chilas erev. When do we say that you have to go ahead and this amount? That's when you have the erev, the start of the erev. Aval b'shirei erev. Let's say the erev is diminished, then kol shehu. Once you have an established erev, you can add a kol shehu. Because again, after all, we didn't say you can make an erev chatzeres el kadesh le'lishkach es atinoikis, that the kid shouldn't forget. We said, we had a little while ago, machlokes. If I make a sheet of muvois or an erev chatzeres, do I have to make vice versa the other one? Do I have to make, or does one help for both? So we had a machlokes. Good. Reb Meir said the reason why it doesn't help. This is one of our charts. The reason why it doesn't help the sheet of muvois erev chatzeres, it really should help. The reason why it doesn't is the kiddies aren't going to know that you made a sheet of muvois, and they're going to see that you never made an erev in the chutzner, and as a result, tishkach teiris erev miyisrael. So therefore, if you made the erev already, if you made the erev and you made a sheet of already, you really don't have to give anything. The reason you're giving is only what? Because of it should be forgotten. Look at Rashi, guys. Lo amru le'erev b'chatzeros la'acha shenishtatfu. Once you had a sheet of muvois, there's no reason for an erev chatzeros. The whole reason was elishleid lishkach teiris eruvei chatzeros matinoikis aboyin that are going to come afterwards. Hilkach makilin bay, right? Therefore, we're makel that you only need kol. You don't need Muslim shtei sudas to regenerate. But my askina, what's the Mishnah talking about? The Mishnah said if it gets less, you don't have to tell them. Right, guys? Look at the first case in the Mishnah. Nismayit moisef u'mizakev ain't tzorch lo idea. Now, nismayit means what? It diminished, but it didn't disappear. It's less, but it's still there. Mashma, if it wasn't there, you would have to tell them, right? The only reason you don't have to tell them is because it's still there. However, if it be totally gone, you would have to inform the other members. That's the diak of the Mishnah. Says the Gemara. But my askinan, if you're going to go ahead and replenish using the exact same min, yayin, peris, greigris, whatever, my area nismayit, afilu kolanami. Even if it's gone, you don't have to tell them, as we're going to see in a second. Again, what does the Mishnah say? You started off with 10, you have 2 left, replenish, you don't got to tell them. Mashma, you started off with 10, you have no left, you have to tell them. Fred the Gemara, what are you replenishing with? If you're replenishing with the same thing you started with, then you don't even 2 left. Even if there's none left, you don't have to tell them, as we'll see in a second. Ella must be shnei minim. You're replenishing using a separate species. You use greigris first, and now you want to use yayin. Afilu nismaya nami loy. Even if it came less, you would have to tell them. The Tanya. If the food of the sheet muvois is gone, mimin echad. If you're going to replenish using the same min, ain't tzarich le'dia. Kasha on our Mishnah. The diak from the Mishnah is only because it was less. Mashma, if it was gone, you would have to tell them. Over here it says, if you're using the same min, you don't have to tell them, even if it's gone totally. And mi beis minin, tzarich le'dia. And if it's beis minim, even if it's right, you have to tell them. So therefore, maman of shach, it came less. Yes, it became less. If it's gone, same min, you don't have to tell them. Different min, you have to tell them. Kasha on Mishnah. Iba yisema mimin echad, iba yisema mishnei minim. Iba yisema mimin echad. Minus mayit. When our Mishnah said that you don't have to tell them, it doesn't mean nismayit. It means nismatmate. Change the gears around a little bit. You know, we're playing a little bit. Nismatmate. What does that mean? It's gone. So our Mishnah is the following. Nismatmate ha'oichel. Change the first word of the Mishnah, guys. Look back to the Mishnah. Nismatmate ha'oichel. If the oichel is gone, moisef u'mezakev ain't tzarich le'dia. If you use the same min, you don't have to tell them. Good? Very good. Now, Another way to go ahead and reconcile the brisa with our Mishnah, it's speaking about two minim, right? What does that mean? Mishneh minim is kol shiny. It's different when it's complete. In other words, our Mishnah is nismayet. If it's speaking about two minim, you don't have to tell them. But if it's totally gone, then you have to tell them. And the brisa is speaking where it's totally gone, and our Mishnah is speaking where it's not totally gone. In other words, if it's speaking about two minim, then you read the Mishnah this way. Nismayra oicho, even if it's two minim, as long as it's still around, ain't tzarich le'idiyah. You don't have to tell them. However, what is the brisa speaking about? Where there's nothing around. Where there's nothing around, and it's two minim, you have to tell them. You just matched it up. We said if you got more diurim, you go ahead, you mizakeh, and you have to tell them. Rav Shizbi, Rav Chisda, Zos Ameres, Chalukin Lov Chaverov al Rav Yehuda. Okay, we're going to have on Pei Aleph Amid Beis, look at the top. It says, the Mishnah says, a person gives money to a chenvani, can even mizakeh for the Erev, right? You can't use money. A person, you only can be Arav Midas. Rav Yehuda b'medem amurim beiruvit chumim, stavka b'yev tchumim. Al erichat seris ma'arvin l'daito shlemi daito. If you shazach lad b'shlei b'fanav in chavin el b'fanav. You see, uncle, you need ma'arvin l'daito shlemi daito, right? Good. Now, it says in our Mishnah, you have to tell them, correct? And now Rabbi Yehuda says you don't have to tell them. Some Rav Shizni Amarav, Yehuda. When they said in the Mishnah that you have to tell them, obviously arguing Rabbi Yehuda says you don't have to tell them. That not Rabbi Yehuda, Amurim, Be'er Tchumim, Al Be'er Chatzeres, Ma'arvim Ben Das Ben Shloy Das. It says no Pshita, the Chalukin. Guys, it's obvious. Our Mishnah says you have to tell them. Rabbi Yehuda says openly you don't have to tell them. What's the Chiddush of Rav Shizbi? So it says, here's the Chiddush of Rav Shizbi. Ma'adetema Hani Mili B'Chatzer Shemein Shnei Muvois. When do you have to tell them? When it's a chatzah between two mavois, and therefore a chatzah between two mavois, maybe you're going to use one and not the other, and therefore what? You don't have to tell them. And our Mishnah, Avol chatzah shel mavi echad eim aloi. I would say a chatzah shel mavi echad. Maybe you would have to tell them. Kamash Malon, Rabbi Yehuda, you don't have to tell them. Let's see Rashi. Mishnah speaking, you don't know which one is better, so you have to tell them. Masha'en came by our Mishnah where we know he's going to go at this mafia. One, you would say that you don't have to tell. Kamash Malon Rishizbi that they argue even in that case. Guys, the chiddush is that our Mishnah argues on Rabbi Yehuda even in one mavoi. In other words, I could have said Rabbi Yehuda said is din. When don't you have to tell when it's two mavois and you don't know which one is going to go out? But one mavoi where you know he's going to go out, maybe Rabbi Yehuda is maybe they'd agree with Rabbi Yehuda. Kamashma from our Mishnah that no, you still have to tell him even with one mavoi. That's the chiddush of Rav Shizbi. Now we said in the Mishnah 8, we said how much is mazon shtei sudais for a lot of people. And for little people, we said a gregris for each and every one. Kamahu merubin, what is merubin? Rav Yehuda, Shmuel, Shmoina Esrei ben Yadam. 18 people. 18 people is merubin. Fred Gemara, Shmoina Esrei b'Suloi. Why do you pick 18? In other words, what's the chiddush of 18? If it's 18, then it's 19, it's 20, it's 21. A lot of people is a lot of people. Ema Mishmoina Esrei v'Elech. No, 18 and up. In other words, it's not Tafka exactly 18, it's 18 and up. 18 and up, Mazon Shtei Sudas does the job. 1,000 people, Mazon Shtei Sudas does the job. It doesn't make a difference. That's why you pick 18. Rav Yitzchak, Rav Yitzchak, the words of my father, Rabbi Yossi, of Rabbi Yehuda, his father, Rabbi Yehuda. Anyone you can go ahead and divide up the Mazon Shtei Sudas. In other words, if you're going to divide it up and you're not going to get a gregus for each and every one, that's merubin already. And therefore, that's it. You take mazon shtei sudas, you divide it up. It's not enough, you don't have to use more. That's it. Zehu. That's your max. Conversely, the sagi mazon shtei sudas. The Eloi, and if it would be enough, then mu'atim ninu, then it's mu'atim, and you don't need much to say sudois. And why just pick 8? Now, what do you hear from this? You hear that 2 sudois is by picking number 18, you're hearing exactly how much Muslim say sudas is. It will be 18 dried figs. Because you're dividing up and it's not enough. Because why? Because it's more than 18 people. So that's what you hear, the halacha of 18. Thank you all for listening.
Sure, thank you.